We are calling the Board of Education meeting for Plainville Community Schools on September 8th, 2025 to order. And the first item of business is to say the Pledge of Allegiance. And Ms. Buchanan, how about you?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. And we have just a little bit of special presentation this evening, and that is going to be our introduction of new teachers.
So for those who attended convocation, this is a little bit of a repeat, but many of you were not able to attend. So I thought, and it's a really exciting moment when we get to bring our new cadre of teachers into our fold. So I thought we would celebrate that tonight. So we have their pictures up here, and I'm going to ask Kevin to forward us. And so starting out with the high school's crew, we have Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cruz is our new world language teacher. He comes from neighboring New Britain and is just full of energy and really exciting to have with us. That was our only high school hire this summer. So we move into the middle school. Miss Grace Domino is our new special ed teacher who's working with our developmental students. We're really excited to have her. And Miss Amanda Jones is here, and she's our new MSP Language Arts teacher. And I'll let you know at this point, 5 of our teachers have joined us this evening, and they are here. But I didn't want to embarrass them any more than necessary, and I really do appreciate their attendance. So we can move on. Miss Rutledge joins us as a math teacher at the middle school. We're very excited she's joining us. Mr. Stavallone is our new PE health teacher at the middle school. He also comes with an amazing amount of energy. Mr. Struble is our new MSP science teacher who comes with quite a bit of experience in science, both in the private industry and professionally teaching. So that's an exciting piece for us. And then we move on to Lyndon. Whereas Lyndon last year, this is one of those stories of how things just shift. Lyndon last year, we hired, I want to say 19 teachers to replace teachers. This year, Lyndon almost didn't have anybody to hire. So we gave Lyndon, for the sake of the presentation, Ms. McClure, who is our new TESOL teacher. And if you remember, and this is a result of the Board of Education's budget, including bringing us up to speed in terms of where we are, meeting the needs of our multilingual students. And so Ms. McClure is filling that need. So we're very excited to have her, and she actually works at all the elementary schools, but we didn't want Lyndon not to have somebody new to present this year. So we'll move over to Taflon. Taflon was actually, I believe, the winner this year for the most teachers. Not 19, but they did have a number of retirements and such. Miss Corey is our new kindergarten teacher over at Taflon. Another very energetic folk. Lindsay joins us, Miss DeTola, as our grade 5 teacher, and we're very excited to have her as well. Miss Markoff joins us. Journeyed here from another state, a very adventurous person, and is our grade 2 teacher. We're very excited to have her. And Miss Pia is here as our new 4th grade teacher. And when we met with them as new teachers, we were very excited because the amount of energy in the room was just palpable, and we were very excited to have them. So, and we've already started to hear some really good feedback. Ms. Pirtle is joining us for our Taflon grade 5 teacher. We're really excited to have her here as well. And then we move on to Wheeler School. And so at Wheeler, we have Miss Kabemba. And Miss Kabemba has some really fun international traveling and teaching stories to tell. So we're really excited to see what she can do for us. And that's really all of Wheeler. and we are really excited to have this group of teachers. It is just a very exciting time. The energy in the room when we talked to them about new teacher stuff was just something that we've all kind of ridden the wave on for the last few days. So we're really excited to have them. And I did tell them that it was very nice of them to come tonight, but we weren't expecting them to stay too long because they've got, things like plans and such to do this evening. So thank you, new teachers, and thank you for this presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. We're glad you were able to join us for a few minutes. We do not need you to stay by any means, but we do appreciate you coming out. So with that, we go on to our approval of minutes, and we have the minutes of June 9th, rather, I'm sorry. Throwing a 10 in front of things. Anybody want to make a motion?
Madam Chairman, I would move that we approve the minutes of the June 9th, 2025 regular business meeting of the Plainville Board of Education.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any corrections, questions? All right, seeing none, I'll call for approval. If all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's unanimous. Thank you. And then we bring up our student representatives. Yes, they're back again. Here we Julian and Paige. Hello, you guys. I just saw Julian standing next to Anthony talking, and I said, I think he grew like 5 inches over the summer. He looks taller. I'm like, literally, he looks taller. I don't know how that happened.
Maybe I lost an inch too. I don't know.
Well, it doesn't help you,
We thought we would just reintroduce ourselves and what we're doing this year to start off. So I took on the role of student council president this year. So I've stepped back from some of my other activities, but I'm still on the swim team, and I'm captain of the tennis team. So that's what I'm doing right now.
And then just hello again, Julian, and this year I'm focused on jazz band. I'm a co-president for Tri-M, and then we're both in like any honor society that we can be, so we're both gonna be volunteering as much as possible. And then for the seasons, I'll be doing cross, indoor, and outdoor. So you'll be hearing a lot about the track stuff this year. And then starting off, so this year, I was working with Mr. Lorenzo, Miss Hickey, and Mr. Coe in helping the freshmen get integrated into the high school. So over the summer, we all met, and we thought of the best way of introducing them into the high school. And we had 2 different learning days, along with obviously the administrators having their own thing. But before school started, freshmen were given a tour by juniors, seniors, counselors, and administrators, and they were able to see their classes, how the school's kind of formatted, what to expect in school day. Instead of moving from the middle school, it's kind of like how to do your own things now. And then also, so they could all talk to each other, because everyone knows starting freshman year is always awkward. But definitely the tour sessions were really beneficial. I heard a few upcoming freshmen say how like they knew where they were going, they weren't stressing. I was joking with them, it's like, are you lost? And they were like, shut up, no. So that was all good.
I'll say, I think this year was definitely, we learned a lot from the first, when we did it my junior year, we learned a lot from that, and I think this year was definitely a lot more successful. I think the number of students that were there were a lot higher, and like, I still talk to some of the freshmen in the hallway that I had in my tour group, and like, they definitely got better acclimated to the school a lot faster.
Yeah.
With that.
Overall, I think it was a great success. This school year, for some school policies that I've been developing, this year the phone pouch policy has been more into effect. Past students weren't the biggest fan of it, but from what we've noticed in classrooms, what teachers are saying, it is being very beneficial, so students are off their phone, putting it away immediately after or immediately at the start of class, getting it afterwards. It has been beneficial for the productivity of the classroom, so even though returning students might not like it, it's very good for the school environment. And then talking about all the sports. So over the summer, every sport was working their heart out there and doing what they need to be good this season. Football has their first game this Friday, so it'll be very exciting. One thing is that the game has been changed from 6:30 to 6. cross-country team, we ran our first 2 meets. We lost to Southington. And then we went to an invite, and we almost brought home a trophy. Sadly not. Volleyball season has been very good. They've all been winning their games so far. They had a game. They're currently having a game in there, and they're doing pretty good. So hopefully they keep that record. The girls and boys soccer team have also been running, and they've won every game so far this season. So it's been really good in Plainville. And then finally, the girls swim team kicked off last week with their annual relay meet, which is a really great event. I know I saw Mr. White there, and the energy in that room is amazing. So it's definitely a great meet that the swim girls do, Mr. Rastro does, and it's just great. And then their season has also been good. And then starting us off with some activities that are currently going on. All the honor societies have been getting their officers together and have been coming up with plans for the year. So, every honor society has its own unique categories, so either Spanish or English, history, whatnot. So it's good that all the officers are coming together and figuring out the best way to help the service or help the community and provide service with their plans. The Chamber Choir is continuing to plan and fundraise for their upcoming and very exciting trip to DC. I know Mr. Helming's been jumping with joy at the opportunity, and he's definitely making the cost as little as possible. And then a new department that I've taken advantage of so far and I think is really great is Miss Barbara Gallo's role this year as, instead of a counselor, the college and career consultant. This is a very interesting role, and I think so far it's going great. But for anyone who might not know as much, her role is going to be to help all seniors find a post-high school job or plan, so either going to college, if you want to go to the military, if you just want to get, just a regular job going right after college, or right after high school, she's really willing to help, and then with Miss Bradley. So those are some activities.
I just wanted to add about our relay meet. Every girl on the swim team medaled. Everyone got at least 1 medal on our team, which we were not expecting to do as well as we did. And it's just such a great event that we're able to do every year now. And then with some more activities, student council, we've been hard at work with our homecoming is October. The homecoming football game is October 3rd. And then the homecoming dance is October 4th, which is almost a whole month earlier than it normally is. And then the robotics team is starting up again, and they're looking for some new members. You can check your emails. I know that I've been seeing some in my inbox about that. And then Unified Sports is also starting up their practices, and that's probably, I'd say, the best way to get involved at PHS. They do so many good things, and our team has gone pretty far in the state as well. And then just some other upcoming events. The underclassmen are taking their school photos on September 11th. The seniors took theirs today. Homecoming, I just said that, never mind. The athletic backers are having a meeting tomorrow night. And I know that's not really about the students, but they did not have very much participation last year, and that reflected on the students. And some people were pretty upset that the sports award night was combined with the night of excellence, and that's all a reflection on the participation from the parents and what the backers are able to do throughout the year. So if we could build up some participation for the athletic backers and the PHS PAC, because all of that reflects on the students and what they're able to do throughout their year. And the PAC's also having a meeting on Wednesday at 7 p.m. And then we're having our Experience PHS Family Open House, September 4th, 6 to 8 p.m. I've always enjoyed this event, especially with all the things that get set up in the CAF, and you really getting to showcase what we do here. And then we're having another financial planning night, Tuesday, September 30th at 6 p.m. There's a lot of new students applying to colleges, a lot of parents that don't know what they're doing. I know my parents, when they were going through it the first time, they went to this, and that really helped. So that's also just another great event. And then we're having another career gallery, which is also one of my favorite things, on October 3rd. And there's so many different things that you can learn about, like your future, and just like all the options that you didn't even know were like a thing that have been showcased at this career gallery. So I'm pretty excited, looking forward to that too. I think that's it.
All right, thank you, guys. Appreciate all the information.
Thank you.
I don't think you left any stone unturned. That brings us to citizens' comments. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the Board of Education? Anyone that would like to speak to the board? Anyone that would like to speak to the board? I have to say that 3 times, even though there's one person sitting over there going like, don't. Thank you. All right, no comments. We do not have a council liaison, but we do have a superintendent's report, so. It would be kind of
All right.
tough if we didn't have one of those, so we'd be in trouble.
Well, you know. So, I gotta work on this agenda thing, because going after students who speak so articulately, we gotta work on that. So just so, really what happened at the high school in terms of phones was they essentially just said, last year they said, look, when you enter the class, put them in these pockets, which are on the back of the door or somewhere in the class, and you just slide them in. They're not like locked pockets. They're actually what were made originally for calculators. And this year's, the change here at the high school is just to really try to be consistent with it, which is what they had started out to do last year. And, things change and things happen, so. So at the end of the year last year, we talked about the referendum passing in terms of some capital projects. And over the summer, we've been working on trying to get the following projects moving along. One is the generator here, and part of the reason we want to make sure that that is up and running really well is that this is the emergency shelter for the town. So, it's important for the generator to be online. The press box was also something we're working on because as we looked at it more, it does have some significant needs, and we're working through that. Working with the pool heater here as well, in the pool obviously. The tennis courts, we're hoping to have something so they can play next spring more without avoiding the cracks. And working to finish the walk-in freezer projects here because those continue to be difficult. We have an MSP renovation going on, and we are right now receiving bids for the commissioning agent, who's kind of the person who checks, crosses all the T's and dots all the I's as we finish the project, and they watch the project throughout. I would call almost like a building auditor of sorts. I might get in trouble for using that term with the auditors, but it really, that's effectively what they do. So that process is in place. That committee and the architects and the Downs Construction, all of us have met throughout the summer, sometimes twice a week, to try to keep us on the timeline. We got a little bit behind in June, but I think we're pretty much caught up now in terms of the timeline. The optimistic and likely to happen plan is that we would start converting the middle school storage area starting around April break in 26 over to temporary classrooms, and that would be the beginning. And then the school that students would be, the parts that students might be impacted by would start in June of 26, which is unbelievably close. I remember when it felt like that was going to be years away. Don't worry about it. It's something. Oops. So open houses are on the way. You heard about one. MSP has their open house next Wednesday, and we're really excited to have that. And the high school and the elementary schools all have their open house on the 24th. We encourage parents to attend. That's a great opportunity to kind of learn who your teachers are and where things are and what the students are talking about when they come home. So we really encourage parents to attend that. And you heard earlier, we have a career fair. If you haven't seen the career fair here, it is amazing. I have never seen anything like it. The amount of people that come in and support our students the amount of engagement we have with our students around jobs and careers is really, really impressive. So that's October 3rd. And we did put something out to see if we can get more businesses to come in because I don't know where they're going to put them because it's already really full, but they'll find a way. They'll figure it out. Summer was about hiring, and I'm really excited because we are in the position of being able to say, you know, the positions are covered. We've filled positions that we had, and I know a lot of my colleagues would love to be in that position. 13 teachers we hired over the summer, 7 paraeducators, 2 tutors, and 2 security officers to start. We've been doing our exit surveys. You know, it's like a lot of surveys. They don't necessarily like to give us anything back. But when we asked why you're, you know, why are you leaving? The primary thing was to leave the profession, generally retiring, and the other piece was compensation. And because you know, there's a lot of competition out there for that stuff. And we asked them how did they feel about their benefit package, and they were 75% said good or excellent, and it sounded like maybe some didn't actually take the benefit package because they said it didn't matter. So we asked if the performance, you know, if their evaluation process was fair, and they all said somewhat or strongly agree. And we asked if they'd recommend it to a friend, and 100% said they'd somewhat agree, recommend coming here to a friend, and 100% said strongly agree or somewhat agree. Again, that's a small N, but it is those who decided to fill one out. So, summer, apart from the hiring that we just talked about and the normal things we do in summer, the leadership team and Dave and I spent 6 days in this space getting excited. We focused the retreat time on, really, it's all about kind of getting everybody ready for the year. Not 6 days in a row. They were kind of broken up throughout the summer. And really talking about collective efficacy, where, you know, if we believe in our students, we believe in each other, we can be successful and have students be successful. Really working on how to lead the Marzano strategies that we've adopted, and moving our curriculum renewal process forward. So all of those things are really exciting, and the team's done a great job. So as a result, we're ready to move with our continuous improvement plans, and school improvement plans are aligned to the strategic plan, and that continues to grow some momentum, so that's really exciting. We have, there was some questions last year about surveys. We have our survey schedule ready this year, and that we're trying to be very strategic to try to not over-survey folks, because some of the Marzano work has surveys in it, and then there's climate surveys, and we're trying to make sure that people feel like it's just an occasional survey that's important and meaningful that we use, as opposed to hitting people with surveys left and right, and you feel like you've left one of the stores that surveys you every time you leave it. We don't want that. So Convocation really had a very nice positive feedback. We enjoyed hearing from the illustrative Steve Michaud, who was our Teacher of the Year for 26. He did a great job of sharing his speech, where he essentially was inspired by talking about a broadened perspective by having an experience outside the classroom, and then coming back to the classroom and having different insights. It was really cool. And then the superintendent went on and on about other stuff, about being present for students on the first day and how important that is, making the most of the moment of that first day, and you know how important that is, and had a few stories. Not sure they were kind of boring, but they were, you know, I think overall it was a very nice session. As some of you know, or all of you know, negotiations with teachers have started. We'll be wrapping that up by October. Who knows? Maybe the October meeting will be ratifying. If you're not in that process, the certified negotiations are held to timelines per the state, I think arbitration board maybe. So essentially, they have to be done by October. Otherwise, we get into mediation and arbitration, all that stuff. So otherwise, it's been a very busy, but a really good, a lot of momentum feel for the start of the school year. And Mr. Lewandowski has a sizable achievement report for you. And I'm going to turn it over to him, unless you think I should take questions before I do that. I can go either way.
Anybody have a question? Go ahead, Dave, I guess.
People just want to really hear from Dave.
While he's doing that, Mr. Reese, I do have a quick question.
Sure.
Was there a particular reason that homecoming was moved up so early? It's just for my own curiosity's sake.
I don't know. So
Okay.
I'm sure they were planning everything that's happening. Did they have a weather issue last year as well?
Can't remember.
So, I don't know. I don't know.
I think it's based on home and away and when
Yeah,
what their
it
schedule
might
is
be.
lined up as.
Oh, okay.
There's
It
some away
moves around.
football games were in that time slot that usually is homecoming.
Thanks, Foster.
Ah, no problem.
And just remember,
What's that?
This would be homecoming, homecoming away.
So that's a lonely homecoming.
That's funny.
All right, so are we ready for achievement? All right, I just
ready
first
for
wanted to thank Julian. You know, I gave him some of the height I wasn't using. So, so I'm waiting for him to thank me, but. No problem, Julian. Put it to good use. So it's my pleasure to present the achievement data. I just want to say, like always, this is what we call autopsy data. It's at the end of the year. We use it to plan forward for general planning, curriculum planning, improvements in curriculum and instruction, but it's not the day-to-day instruction, the day-to-day information that we get that impacts us more. We do a lot more with our day-to-day information throughout the school year for improvement, but this is important information as well. This is like our report card when we get these items. This data comes in batches from the state, so we don't have everything yet. We have the majority, and you've had what I am presenting. I didn't get anything new, but we are still waiting on a couple pieces of data to make sure that we have our whole accountability index complete. So I do like to start with this slide, and it just gives you a sense of what our population looks like in Plainville. Who are the students we're serving? What's the student body look like? And I go from about 2010, so last 15 years of information to show the differences in the children that we serve and the population that we serve. So overall population continues to go slightly down, but an increasing diversity of students, which is great. But also we have an increase in student need with our special education students and our multilingual learner numbers. And as you can see on the left, that number of English learners continues to increase for us. So I'm going to start with the Smarter Balanced assessments. That's grades 3 through 8, ELA and math. Just a few highlights that I wanted to just put on the screen for you to look at. For ELA, almost half of our grade 3 through 5 teachers had an average class proficiency of 60% or greater. Now that's the average for the whole class was 60% or greater. That's very good for us. 5 of those teachers had 75% and greater proficiency. And we also had 2 teachers with 88% or more proficient for their whole class. We also had cohorts in 4 out of the 5 grades that grew from one year to the next. And that means looking at one group of students from one year to the next, that same group of students. And we had growth in 4 out of the 5 grades. For math, similar numbers in classrooms that had 60% or greater proficiency. Again, 2 teachers with 89% or more proficiency for the whole class. All MSP cohorts, 6th, 7th, and 8th, grew by an average of 8%. And then 8th grade growth was among the highest in Connecticut, and that's a trend that we've seen over the last few years, is our 8th grade growth numbers have been extremely high in comparison with other districts across the state. So I thought I'd just scribble on a piece of paper for you. So when you're looking at this, it can be confusing. There's a lot of data points, a lot of lines. But the most important thing I wanted you to look at, 15-16 was our second year of testing for the SBAC. 14-15 was like that first rollout for the whole state. And then so 15-16 was kind of like our true first data point for SBAC. And I like to look at that all the way to current numbers. When you look at any kind of graph like this, what we really want to see is less variability. So you're really looking at those lines to come together. We want to see less variability amongst grade levels with performance. You can see it goes kind of all over the place. There's some wide variability in 15-16. When you get to 24-25, we're shrinking that variability a little. And we saw some good increases. You also see that big dip. You're going to see that for ELA as well, and that was the COVID dip. We did obviously have no testing in 1920, and we did see a dip because of the pandemic. But we have been growing. In this chart, when you look at from 15-16 to 24-25, we had an increase in almost every grade except for grade 3. But one of the most important pieces were the increases we had in our transition grades of grade 5 and 8, and actually grade 7 as well, where there was an average of 23% growth. So that's very good when you're looking at our growth over time for those transition grades, getting kids prepared for the next level of their education from elementary to middle and middle to high school. Now this gives you a sense of, forget all those other numbers, looking at kids' performance over time. So a group of students testing each year. So this shows grade 3, 4, and 5 testing from 2020, and that same group of kids testing in each year. And you can see that for the last couple of years, we're seeing a trend of increasing performance by those grades in math SBAC. And that's a very positive trend for us. All right, so not much variability between the grade levels with the ELA testing over time. Again, starting in 15-16, you can see a little more tight than we are now, so we want to improve that. But again, with this, you can see that for student proficiency over time, the transition, again, grade of grade 5 and grade 8 both increased from 15-16 to 24-25, which is a positive trend. We're hoping to continue that. We want to see the numbers a little higher. We saw some dips. But then when we look at the next chart, like we did before, if you look at a cohort of students, again, a little more stagnation than you saw in math, but you are seeing increases for the last couple of years from these same groups of students testing each year. So again, a positive trend. We want to see those numbers continue to increase, but they are on the upward trend. So when you talk about the NGSS, this is only grades 5, 8, and 11 who test for the NGSS. If you look at elementary alone, each school had a nice increase in performance from last year to this year. So all elementary schools seeing at least a 10% growth. And then I also want to applaud the board for allowing us to hire another math instructional resource teacher, because I know that's math and not science, but our IL does math and science, so it gives our instructional leader a little more time with science to continue with these gains that we're seeing, because she's doing a great job with this. Now, if you look at 8th grade, I kind of took out the top of performance for our students. These are students exceeding expectations. And you could see the trend line and the increase in our students exceeding expectations in 8th grade on the NGSS. This is a very good trend for us, for students doing the highest level of work that they can on that assessment. And again, if you look at 21, 22, and 22, 23, it kind of leveled off. We're seeing that same level off, so we're hoping, again, we'll increase after that year and continue that trend of increasing on this assessment. There was a slight increase for grade 11 on the NGSS assessment. It was about a 2% increase, so that's great. But I know the science department last year took a lot of time trying to ensure that they were hitting on the important concepts that are on NGSS in their courses that they teach, because in high school you have a lot more variability in the courses you can take. So you're going to take some of our required courses of earth science, biology, and chemistry. Some students aren't taking chemistry, some aren't taking physics. There are physics concepts on NGSS. So you want to make sure that those concepts are being covered in other courses and electives so that our students are prepared to take this assessment and that they take this assessment seriously. So there's a lot of work being done to keep infusing NGSS type questions in all of our electives and science courses throughout the department. So the next assessment is the school day SAT for our juniors. We've had increasing proficiency gains for the reading and writing portion of the SAT. This is, again, a promising trend. We're hoping our efforts in curriculum and expansion of rigorous course offerings should help sustain this growth. In math, these are the assessments leading up to the SAT that we take. So overall score on the math section. We did see growth from that PSET 8-9, which they take in 9th grade, to the SAT in junior year. But you do see going up, coming down, and going up again. There was a little variation in how our juniors performed. So again, trying to strengthen that math portion for this group of students. I did have a slide just kind of in retrospect when we look at the overall performance of that group on math SAT. I think there are some, now these aren't excuses, we know we're targeting some of the areas for growth in that area of math for that group of students, but there are some possible factors in why we saw that decrease. And some of it had to do with the interrupted learning that this group had. I know sometimes when we go over this, some of the questions from the board where was that group during COVID? This group was a group of 6th graders during COVID, so they didn't test in 6th grade. In 7th grade, it was that kind of hybrid year where it was a hybrid testing year. So in their middle school, where you are making that shift to that more conceptual math, they did have that break in instruction, and it was a different type of instruction that they received. So again, I put that last bullet on there, that 2024 group. When I looked back, they had also had a little drop in math, and they were also a group that was in 7th grade during COVID. So again, their middle school years were interrupted with testing and with some of that important math that scaffolds up to the high school. So again, not excuses, but just looking at what were the reasons why we might be seeing a dip for those two grades on the SAT. But with that said, we're seeing a lot of great gains in our students with the most instructional needs. So if you look at this chart, it might not look like a really big gain, but when you're going from no students being proficient in the SAT in a certain category to then seeing students becoming proficient, it's a big gain. So for our special education students, in math going up to 4% proficiency, and then reading and writing going up to 28% proficiency from 14. These are some really good gains with our students that before it was an SAT school day where everyone took the SAT, a lot of our students weren't taking the SAT at all. And now everyone taking the SAT, we need to make sure that everyone is prepared, and we're seeing more preparation and then more success from our students. And the same is true for our multilingual learners. Again, some really big gains from 0 to 8% in math proficiency and then up to 25% in reading and writing on the SAT. So again, all the work that we're doing, exposing all of our students to more rigorous coursework, we're showing some of the fruits of our labor. And this is just another data point that really shows how much we're pushing students and ensuring that they have access to more rigorous coursework. So our dual enrollment courses for college credit, a huge gain in our high need students taking these courses. And when we say high need students, there's 3 different categories. A high need student is either free reduced lunch or special education or a multilingual learner or a combination of all 3 of those. So if we look at the percentages, our free and reduced lunch students, that's about 42% of our population. And then when you look at multilingual learners, we're at about 8%. And then when you look at special education, it's about 16% of our students. So for high needs, you're in one of those categories. And again, when you look at 18-19 to 23-24, a lot more courses being taken and successfully completed. And with that course taking, with the success on those courses, we're improving our college and career readiness, which is one of those indicators for the state report card as they look at college and career readiness. The types of courses you're taking, the types of courses you're passing, your overall score on our standardized assessments. So we are seeing improvement in college and career readiness for our high-need students as well. And we're hoping, again, as we continue with these strategies, that will continue to keep increasing. Our multilingual learners have their own assessment, the Lost Links assessment that they take every year. And they actually are one of the only groups of students who actually tested during COVID because they test in January. So they tested before we went out. So they have had test data every single year. And we saw, again, we keep growing in this group year to year, and we saw really big growth in literacy, and that was one of the focus areas this year by the multilingual learner department. So literacy gains were really successful, and the oral language was a slight improvement of 1.5 percentage points, but improving in everything. And these are the two areas on the Lost Links that the state reports for the accountability index. So we're responsible for these two areas. So to see improvements year after year is really helping us. And it's helping these students to be more successful in all of the courses they take because they're becoming more proficient in English as they move forward. Another thing that I wanted to commend, and I know Brian mentioned this, was thanking the board for allocating the money to hire another TESOL teacher, another multilingual learner educator, so that we could fill the need that we had. You saw that first slide on the increasing numbers that we had. We needed more staff to meet their needs. So again, the multilingual learner department is very focused on improvement, and they've been doing an incredible job. And this shows how many students were exited from the program. So by scoring a certain level of proficiency on the Lost Links, you are exited from the multilingual learner program and don't receive those services. As a multilingual learner, you're more infused into the regular curriculum. And as you can see, we had pretty good numbers throughout, but then really exploded to 28 students being exited this past year. And hopefully we're going to see those numbers stay at that higher level with, again, how much we're doing to target instruction for the students with the staff that we can. So advanced placement is another indicator on the state report card. It's some of our more rigorous and most difficult classes and assessments to take. And we've seen continued success in students taking our AP classes. This piece of data I was very happy to see because the increase was so big. So what you see is on the AP, you're scored 0 to 5. A 3, 4, or 5 are what colleges would accept for credit. Most will accept like 4s and 5s, the more rigorous colleges and the harder to get into colleges, whereas majority of colleges still will take a 3 or higher to accept your credit. But you have to get that 3 or higher on that one test that you take at the end of the school year. It's a high stakes test. We had 81% of our students that took an AP test score a 3 or higher. So that's an incredible number. And you can see from 2021 on that increase in performance from our students, little gradual, and then we just, took off last year. But again, exposing our students to more rigorous courses, getting more of our college credit courses beyond AP, our ECE classes, our essential classes. We have students taking night classes at the colleges. We're exposing kids to that more rigor, and when they take these AP classes, they're knocking it out of the ballpark with their performance. So very happy and excited about this. And if you look at another chart, it just shows how we're increasing the number of students involved in these AP courses and exams, and then the scores that they're getting. So 90 of those 111 students scored 3 or above. And the overall average for all our AP courses, I think it was about 15 different AP courses that we assessed students on. The average performance was over a 3. So again, very successful. All right, so the accountability index is what we get every year, which is that state report card on all those different indicators. So I'm just going to go through. I had enough data where we could make an estimate on what our score would be. So I'm just going to go through that. But I want to show, like I said, we get data that's kind of batched out in different sections. So this was some of the first data that we received for the accountability index, these 3 areas. And I'm highlighting these 3, not just because we had great growth in these 3 areas, but because there were specific strategies that were tied to these 3 areas to get that growth. So as you can see, we hit the goal on 2 out of the 3, and that one on top, on track to graduate in 9th grade, we were very close to the goal, just 0.6 percentage points off of that. So that means we get almost 100% of the points that the state allows. So for on track to graduation, the high school worked very hard, went to some summer training on this, and last year instituted the Blue Devil Academy. So that was a target on study habits, behaviors, a focus on attendance, monitoring those students throughout the school year, ensuring that they were continuing with their studies, that they were getting support if they needed it, setting goals with the students, and it helped out. And this was all done with increasing the number of credits they needed to have during the school year as well. So we increased the amount of credits they had, and they had to continue to pass those courses. So we had 93.4% of kids on track to graduate. For course taking, this is what I talked about exposing more students to rigorous coursework. 97.1% of our students take at least one dual enrollment class, college level class, or a CTE career class. And you can see the strategies we've put in place to ensure that our kids have access and opportunities to take all of those courses. Arts access was another area where we needed to improve because we just didn't feel like we had enough sections to meet the state requirement of 60% of our student body enrolled in an arts course, which is fine arts, arts, music. So again, thank you to the board. You allocated money where we can hire a fine arts teacher. So we hired a teacher who had both CTE certification and art certification. And you can see with those extra classes that we were able to teach, they filled up with students, and we had 73.9% of our students enrolled in one of those classes. So you can see that was a big jump from where we were hovering just above the state goal to now we're well above the state goal with what we're offering. And some of my last slides, this is the report card. So this is what all districts are accountable for, with SBAC performance, SAT performance, course taking, college and career readiness. So if you look at all of those indicators, this is one page, and I'll get to the next page of indicators. In this page of indicators, we increased in almost every one of them. Those top areas, performance on math and ELA for all students and high need students. Some area for improvement, but if you look over on the right, those blues are very high in comparison with the state, and we're almost meeting and getting close to meeting those goals. So the more blue it gets, the higher you are, and the more closely you are aligned to the state goals. The orange are areas we still need to improve upon, so we have strategies for that. But we also, in those areas that are orange, increased from last year, so we are improving. We just need to continue working towards that higher level of achievement. And then the second page, again, many improvements. You see 2 blanks. Those are 2 areas we're still waiting for the state to give us the data so that we can get our full accountability index score. But if you look at most of our indicators here, we've improved from last year to this year. And again, directly related to some of the things that we've put in place. Attendance is one of our areas we've been focusing since COVID. Our numbers were pretty good before COVID. Once COVID hit, like all districts, it's been a tough one to battle back from. All of our schools have attendance on their school improvement plan. They've been doing it for the last few years. The one real positive area that you don't see in those numbers, because it says all students and high need students. If you break that down even further, all students is a combination of non-high need students and high need students. Our non-high need students, we got them to the lowest chronic absenteeism percentage since pre-COVID. They were at 6.6%. So it is working. We just now need to target that high needs group and families and connect them more to school and have more outreach with those families. So our strategies now can be, we're not going to stop working with those non-high need students, but we need to target our strategies a little more towards that group. And we had, actually, the multilingual learner department has already started with a grant for home visits they put into place last year that's been very successful, that they're continuing this year. And they're spreading their success with that program to all the other schools and the general population so that we can work with more students than just our multilingual learners. But for the grant, it was just targeting our multilingual learners. So hopefully we'll learn from that, be able to put some strategies in place for the general population, and again, decrease those numbers of high-need students being chronically absent. So more to come on that. We will have the, if I go back one more time, just also the overall score, that was much higher than last year as well. So we are getting, with all those arrows up, it means our score is going to be higher, hopefully, than last year, unless some of the numbers that the state sent out needed to be adjusted, but it doesn't look like that. It looks like we'll be higher than last year. And then the last thing I just wanted to say is we don't have a lot of information from other levels or the state for awards or recognitions, but we did get notified that the high school was named a U.S. World News World and Report Best Schools. They were of the top 30% nationally. That's the second year in a row they've received this award, and that's a combination of all of their test scores, their student population, how that student population is achieving. So there's a lot of data that goes into that, what we offer in the high school, how comprehensive our high school is, the opportunities that are there for students. So another big recognition for the high school and all the work the admin and teachers are doing in the building. But this is just a taste. Hopefully we'll have other schools that will get some recognition. I'm hopeful that with our high needs student performance on some of the standardized testing, we had really high numbers compared to the state and compared to what we had last year for that category in particular. So I am hopeful that we'll see some recognition out of that as well. And that is the end of my presentation. So it's a lot. Hopefully you were able to look at some of that beforehand. But if there are any questions, comments, I can do my best to answer, or I can bring that to other people who might be able to answer from the schools. But I'd be glad to take any questions or comments.
Dave, one question does come to my mind, or my alleged mind anyway. The middle school just finished their iReady for both math and ELA. Is there any way, and how soon will we know what the results of the iReady tests, and is there a way to correlate those back with the smarter balance that we saw tonight?
Yes, and yes. So the results are pretty immediate with that. So we'll have the results. It's just going through the results and kind of ensuring that that we take those results and really disaggregate all of it. But once that's disaggregated, the schools use that for instruction. We have done work over the last few years to see how correlated it was to SBAC, and it was highly correlated with math and ELA. I think at first it was a higher correlation with math, depending on the grade level. But as we've used it more, we are seeing it be highly correlated to what the students will do. But I can get you more information on that as we get the results from all the schools.
And I was only aware that this was taking place. There's not a similar process in
There is.
3?
Yeah, there's an upper grade.
Yeah.
So fifth grade,
5th grade, yeah.
I actually think it's fourth and fifth, but I can check on that. But yes, there is iReady in the elementary.
That would be
as well.
helpful. Thank you.
Dave,
Yes.
if I may, we had a lot of information about those that were in leveled up after COVID and when they started. I was wondering, is there any information we can get on those students who were in first grade during COVID to see, how that's affecting their
Sure.
education? Thank you.
Yep.
I just have a comment. Sorry. I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. I know that we're always asking for additional data and to drill down and to be able to look at things and, keep track of it. So thank you for doing that.
Dave, quick question.
Sure.
On on the first slide, while we talk about demographics, the eligible for free or reduced meals has increased by almost 3.5% in a few years. Did the standards change, or what do you think the reason for that increase is?
Yeah. So I don't know how many years they go before there's like a standard of living adjustment. I can look into that. I know there is some, but I don't know. From what I understand, I thought it was pretty similar the last several years of where that cutoff was, but I can check on that exactly to see. I mean, as you can see, it's been increasing since, so I couldn't tell you like an exact answer as why it would be going up, but I can see if the standards have changed, if those cost of living adjustments, when they're put in.
That would be helpful, thank
Yep.
you.
Anybody else? Questions?
I would just throw in, I really appreciate Mr. Lewandowski always make sure to include all of our students. So you heard about our students with our most needs, and you heard about our students who take AP tests, right? You really do a nice job of kind of sharing the whole continuum, and that's really important. It's something, sometimes in education we focus one place or the other, and I think that's really important. I think obviously it's just a look forward. We don't know for sure because the state is still processing data. But the state's index is to try to say, look, yes, there's achievement data, and there's all these other things. That if you're not doing all these other things, like attendance, like the health and PE, and if you're not doing all those things, it's not necessarily enough just to have achievement. And so I think it is really important and helpful to have that kind of look. And the other piece is that it's been really nice this year to be able to compare, to use cause and effect, right? We're always trying to use cause and effect in data presentations, but we actually can really make some nice connections. And I think, Dave mentioned it, but here at the high school, they've done a lot of work to say, how do we get students from entering from middle school ready? And it's been like a total revamp for the last 2, maybe 3 years, total revamp of how we process students into the school. And I think we're really seeing the benefits of that and seeing classes. And in this day and age for our AP, the students taking AP to be increasing is no small thing. So I do appreciate your presentation.
I'd love to make a follow-up comment on the AP course results. With my tenure coming to a close, one of the first things that I remember not being leery of, but having questions on and wanting to watch the progress track was that sending of the letter to all students. And I was looking at it from a personal experience, going through it with our child and the conversations that letter generated. And we've talked about those over the years, to now having data to follow up what that looks like. So thank you. And it's exciting to see that cause and effect, especially for something that I really needed to see the data to have full buy-in. Sure. So keep up the great work.
Thank you.
So I like the return on the investment. I think is huge, right? So there's been specific asks from the administration, and the board has provided the resources that were targeted, and you can see the clear return on the investment, which I think is a great thing. So it's important that the administrators have a really strong pulse on what the true needs are, and because of that, and because you guys are so engaged and utilizing data for the right reasons here, I think is really producing some great fruit. And so fantastic summary here, great reporting, but really appreciate all the stuff behind the scenes that isn't always seen to be able to get results like this.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. your report is complete.
Yes, thank you. I know I should just say that.
So we are going to move into our board subcommittee reports. I don't know how many folks have had meetings because obviously just the start of the year, but Facilities and Finance, Foster.
The Facilities and Finance has not met, but I do hope that we will meet prior to the next meeting with all the work that's going on with MSP and preparing for budgets.
Gotcha. Policy Subcommittee, Crystal?
No report.
Gotcha. Curriculum, I know we did not meet over the summer. Outreach, of course, we did not meet. The PAC liaison, any news from those folks, Foster, other than what Julian already did?
PAC is meeting Wednesday night, and last month I gave you their financial statement. You need that again. When they last met, they had a balance of about 1,500, but that probably has changed with some of the scholarships they gave out. They gave out 3, I believe.
Gotcha. PTO liaison at Toflon is me. I forgot all about that, to be quite honest with you. I apologize. I did not check in and find out when their next meeting is or their first meeting, but I will do that. And the PTO liaison for Linden, Mr. Bruces.
Obviously, no meetings over the summer. Kickoff 25-26 is tomorrow night at 6 o'clock in the library.
Thank you. Ms. St. Lawrence, the middle school.
So the MSP PTC will meet tomorrow, Tuesday, September 9th at 7 p.m. in the MSP Library Media Center.
Thank you.
Correction if I said tomorrow night. It's Wednesday night. I apologize. Wednesday night at 6 o'clock in the library.
Wheeler PTO, Ms. Buchanan.
Thank you. Wheeler PTO for September, some important dates and reminders. Tuesday, September 16th is the mom pickup from 5 to 6. Thursday, September 18th at 6 p.m. It's the first meeting of the year. Sorry, I just put a mint in my mouth. Forgive me. Our first PTO meeting in the library at 6 p.m. on this Thursday, or Thursday the 18th rather. Wednesday, September 24th, as mentioned previously, is the open house. And just to file away for October, Thursday, 10/16 will be the October PTO meeting. And then some dates to look ahead to are 10/22, 10/23, and 10/24 parent-teacher conferences, just to get them on your calendar and ready. And then Friday, 10/24, is one of the best nights of the year. You also have parent-teacher conferences, but it's trunk or treat at 6 p.m., so get your calendars ready.
All right, thank you. Correct Council has not met yet for this year, and I really don't have much under chairperson's report. Just want to thank everybody for being here this evening, and, you know, obviously, the school year started off, I don't know what happened to the summer, but just flash, right? And, you know, sometimes people say, oh, what do you do during the summer? And I have to say that, you know, from these administrators, they're working harder during the summer than they are during the school year sometimes, because it's your only opportunity to kind of get to a place. So appreciate everybody's efforts, and Happy New Year, like Mrs. LeGoik would always say, Happy New Year. So that brings us to unfinished business, of which we have none, I don't believe. New business, board open forum. Anybody have anything they would like to say? We're running on we could be out of here in record time, guys, so.
Can I just make a quick comment regarding our student liaisons? I loved everything that you all talked about. You're always so articulate and present to us such a nice variety of information and gives us the pulse of the school. But I loved that you tapped into best practices, especially having your experience doing this in your junior year role, and then being able to do it again in your senior year role. So thank you for stepping up and being leaders in your school. I also really enjoyed, as an alumni of the school system, hearing about the relationship formed between the senior and the freshman. It's just so important, and it's everlasting, and you touched on it so well about how much more comfortable that transition is, and thank you. And I think that the classes that come behind you can continue those best practices and pass that learning down. So thanks for the time you put in.
Yes. Anyone else?
Just to give a shout out, so, you know, starting especially some of the new teachers that we saw here are on the younger side this year, which is great. So hopefully they'll be with us in the district for quite some time. But I think we really got a great crew this year. And from a personal note here, I've got a great story from Ella, who was raving about one of her teachers this year, who's brand new, and who I was able to share a little bit of a note with the other day. It's amazing to see what the impact of what one teacher can do, especially within the first 2 weeks of teaching in general, right? Which is pretty powerful. So we're pretty fortunate that we have a really great vetting process. Administrators have been working very hard of getting the best of the best. And clearly that's evident in some of the remarks that we're getting at home from our kids, and really grateful for the work that you guys do in the summer to hire some of the best of the best. And hopefully with this young crew that we have this year, they'll be around here for another 30 plus years.
Fingers crossed.
And there were some alumni in that group. Yes. I'd love to point out. Mm-hmm.
Nice. I opened the door for a few of them coming in, and Jared came in afterwards, and I said, I think those were teachers, but they look like students to me. These look so young. All right, so we're going to move on to our consent agenda. Can I get a motion? Unless anyone wants something removed, we're going to go for the whole consent agenda.
Madam Chairman, I move we accept the consent agenda as presented to us in our packets.
All right, do I get a second? Second. Thank you, Jared. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. So we are going to adjourn into an executive session. I do believe that when we return to open session, we may be taking action because of these ratifications of a couple of contracts for the bargaining units. But that should be about all that we will do, so we would like to put that out there. So, we can make a motion to move into executive session, invite the superintendent.
Yeah. Madam Chairman, I move we go into executive session and that we invite the superintendent and the assistant superintendent of schools.
As well as, are we inviting the town attorney?
Yes.
And the town attorney.
Thank
Sorry
you.
about that.
I thought maybe he just came to look at us, but, you know, figured he was here for this. All right, so we got a motion. Do we have a second? Thank you. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you very much.